She said that.
Yes, okay.
So she stopped you from talking.
Yes.
Okay.
After that, she asked me also regular questions on discussions. You are a talker or listener? So I told her I am. I'll always become a listener. So to get a lot of information, and sometimes I will talk and give my opinion. قالت لي وبعدين then she asked me about do you win on discussion or not? I told her sometimes
Did you interrupt her or
no. But after I had the paper, so I
fiddled with your
with
fiddle,
the
so
yes
fiddle.
yes, I fiddled with it. So it told me that I have to put the pen away on the
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, well that just I would say 0.5 out of the score probably.
Yeah.
But that I mean, see, this is the kind of test like you never know, and it's always human feelings and emotions that control that. No matter how much objectives they are when they're conducting these tests, there's always this human interference with the bias of the test or the credibility or the authenticity of the assessment of the speaker. Because I would never think I would have never thought that you get 6 in speaking. I was shooting like 7.5 to 8. Because usually people in Iraq have very good speaking skills. They know how to manage their time talking. They know the ins and outs of conversation, and this just it takes a little bit of practice to transfer from the Arabic conversation context where two people talk at the same time and making sense of each other to a asynchronous, not synchronous. Asynchronous is the opposite of synchronous. So they moved to asynchronous. Asynchronous is requiring a form of computer control or not going at the same rate. This is called asynchronous. But it's not asynchronous, because when you say asynchronous, you're referring to the other word. Like asynchronous talk and then asynchronous talk. So this is the word that I was talking about here. So when you move probably like the asynchronicity of your conversation with her, probably your behavior was not, because have you used Zoom before when you did any kind of test? Of course we use Skype, but
no, but
did you talk to her face? Did she see you or
yes.
Okay, what was she from?
I think British. She was British.
How old is she?
An old person.
Did you know if she's married or single?
I don't know, but I think her name were Jewel. Jewel, yes.
Julie? Jewel. Yes. Like the jewel that women wear.
Yes, Jewel, yes.
Well, it seems that the result that gave you was not Jewel by any means.
Of course. I wait about 1 hour and a half.
Before?
Yes. No.
Did you tell her?
No, of course. My test was at 12 o'clock, but I had to wait for until
12 a.m. or p.m.?
p.m. After I completed my exam. I completed my exam on 11. So my exam was
You just transferred to speaking waiting room and then...
Yes. But she didn't came up until 1:50.
And she was talking to you from UK?
Yes.
Okay. No, and it was only you who took the test, right?
Yes.
I have no idea why she gave you 6, honestly, but
I tried to a evaluation, but I thought that
re-evaluation.
Yes, but I thought that I have to take another exam. It's better.
Well, it's always valid to submit a complaint that the kind of interview was not fair, because I think they would consider that, but probably you're gonna get 6.5.
Yes.
And that's comforting. I mean, it's at least pushing you. But remember something. This is not reality. No matter how much good tests are, they would never measure the exact amount of skills that person has in language, because it's really immeasurable.
Mm.
Like imagine like we talk about like the measurement of viruses in the bodies, but no matter how much tests we conduct, we cannot give an exact estimate
Yes, of course.
of the virus cells in the body.
Of course.
Because it's really hard and it's inside the cell, so it's really complicated. So I cannot say that Mustafa is in this level just because I've had a 10 minutes conversation with him.
Yes.
It does not make sense to be assessed by one person,
of course,
because that one person might have gone through a car accident, or might have not gotten his breakfast, or she's under some financial issues, or she's been locked down due to COVID-19 and she's been feeling depressed, and this emanates. It means, well, it's good to. I think it is spelled that way. Produced by, like the proposal emanated from committee, which means came out of. So that kind of depression or that kind of score that she gave you just emanated from her psychological situations. She's probably old. She's not married, or she doesn't have a boyfriend, or she hadn't had sex for like long time. So it's always complicated issue, and but you know, the validity of speaking outweighs the validity of all the other three tests combined. Why? Because speaking is the ultimate productive skill on which we assess the performance of the speaker, body gestures, eye contact, self-confidence, self-stability, psychological status, body positioning, body gestures, eye movements. All of that is combined cumulatively to produce effective communication.
Of course.
So it measures up most of speaking skills tests if they have the acceptable questions. They give up to 85% accuracy of their real person's level. But there's always this kind of 15% gap. But there are three criteria on which we might say that this test was not valid. And these three criteria are the validity of the test, the reliability of the test, and the practicality of the test. Now, why do we talk about these three? Well, sometimes the test is not valid because the person was asked this kind of question before, or he was expecting that kind of question. So he subconsciously developed mechanism or had a set of vocabulary to say, which will be very good indicative of his real, not his real level, but his real preparation for that test. So, like if you're going somewhere, like to a battlefield, and you know where the soldiers who are going to attack you from, now that is going to give you strength position. But if you are
yourself with the strategy,
of course, so you'll have strategy to come. So sometimes tests are valid, sometimes tests are not valid. That's why we say that if you take the test twice, the second test is not considered valid at all. Why? Because you've already developed some mechanism to and seen the result. That's why no person, like when people take the test the second day, like for example, they fail. What happens in high schools, for example, here, they take the test and then some people fail to come. They come next day, take the test. Their results is not going to be considered valid educationally because they've already seen the kind of questions that they've had good preparation on. Reliability of the test is related to the performance of the test to measure what it's designed to measure for. So is this test reliable? Like it's like a car. When you say, is this car reliable to take me to Basra, or it's going to fail me? And by that we mean, is it going to give us the real impression of the person or not? So it's about the test design. And you've taken the test on Zoom, which is not the real speaking situation.
Yes.
It's virtual
Yes.
kind of context, and probably she didn't have the good impression, or you did not reflect. We're not always blaming her.
Yes, of course.
But sometimes we blame the person because there's some code of conduct. Code of conduct. It's called code of conduct. That they breach or break. Code of conduct. And that just refers to the kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding that happens with two parties. And there's the practicality of the test, which is very simple. Like, can I take it like anywhere? Or is it like not practical? Like it is like 6 hours long, or it's 12 hours, or it's very complicated, or it's unreadable. All of these tests are designed by human beings, and they sometimes not measure what the real level of the person is. So when we talk about, like, for example, we've talked about TOEFL, and I told you that I've taken this test 11 times, actually 12. I took one in Iraq and 11 ones in the United States. But honestly, like, for example, this is a test out of 120. You know about TOEFL, right?
Yes.
So I took this test a long time ago. It was 2011. I got 100. I got 27 out of 30 in writing. I got 26 out of 30 in speaking. But I got 19 in listening. I took the test 11 times. 7 times out of 11, they give me 19.
Oh my God.
I swear, 7 times they give me 19 in listening. And I was like shocked. Like, well, there might be some kind of wrong issue with this test because I'm not fixed to 19. Like, sometimes I hit and sometimes I miss. So why would they give me 19 out of all of that? So the validity of the test sometimes is not that quite high. The practicality of the test sometimes is not quite high. So I mean, you never know, man. It's very complicated thing, and it's not always clear. It's not sometimes clear what the person is expecting and what he sees in the test. But it's an experiment, and we can build on that kind of experience to see what we can see. This is another test.
Yes.
I took it without a preparation.
Yes.
Because I thought that I've taken the TOEFL test 11 times, so I don't need to take it anymore.
I'm ready, all right.
So I got it in 2017 in Baghdad.
Yes.
See, my writing went back. My speaking went back. My listening is 22, and my reading is 20. So what happened here, I've taken this test here in Baghdad, and I've taken this 6 years difference between that.
Yes.
Yeah. So fast forward, my level got worse according to the test.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Is this right or wrong? I have no idea. But that this kind of scores, I mean, you never know. They are unpredictable.
Yes.
By the way, when I was taking the test, I had migraine, so I was smiling. But look at this eye. I had terrible migraine at that time. It was December.
Because
it was
you're
cold.
Stressed.
No, it was December. It was really cold, and I had sinuses. So it just went. I don't know. That was 9 years ago. Yes, 9 years ago. Anyways, so it's sometimes okay to take more than one test because one test does not always determine that your real genuine level. But it's just a test.
Yes.
And I totally understand that there's some kind of frustration comes to the person the first few days, but you start to get used to it, and then you start preparing for that.
Yes.
But the only lesson I learned, the real lesson I learned from this kind of test is that you should leave some periods of growth
Of course.
between the first test that you've taken
Yes.
and the
To
second test
prepare
that you take.
yourself.
So sometimes the test is valid to some extent by saying that, well, you need to practice more, you need to get more training, you need to get more reading and writing to be in a very high competitive level. Also, there is another issue that this is something they say they control, but honestly, it's really hard to control. When you are assessed by native speakers who speak English, their expectations are higher than when you're assessed by non-native speakers taking the IELTS test. Because the point of measurement is that I'm a native speaker and I can see the spectrum of issues that Mustafa has in language and where his weaknesses are. But if I am a non-native speaker, I would be more probably generous when it comes to like assessing your skills.
Yes.
Why?
Because
Because it's a matter of acquisition and learning. Like, I've learned English this way, and I appreciate how much effort he put. So I'm giving him extra bonus score for that part, whether that's completion, cohesion and coherence, grammatical range and accuracy, or lexical diversity for writing part. But does that mean really that he's up to this level of expectations or not? That's all determined by the test administrator. So test administrators have very controversial assessments or impressions of people, and they're humans again. But as I said, there's probably 50% chance that they were not correct. There's 50% chance that you did not perform well.
Of course, yes.
This is the test number. Statistically speaking, this is the test number 1 to you. And it's always the first experience that just gives you an impression of where you are located on the GPS of language and where you should head to. So it's a little bit of territory and moving from one mountain to another, from one geographical zone that has some difficulty to understand to another. But I can see that you've had this difficulty with reading dense text, juicy text with lots of vocabulary. And I should remind you that when they design these kind of paragraphs, when they choose them, they add something called distractors. And I've talked with you about that. So they add these distractors to get you stuck trying to read the word. So you should never read the word that you find difficult to read because they intentionally put it in there or they switched it. Like they choose, for example, Russian names or Czechoslovakian names, or they choose Chinese names that are hard to be enunciated. And enunciated is just like pronunciated. Enunciate. It's not that quite frequent word, but I'm just using it to help you say or pronounce clearly. So I pronounce the word, but that does not mean I say correctly. If you enunciate the word, you say it correctly. So my point is that they give you these kind of words that are really hard to enunciate. And they just put these words intentionally. Like I see this paragraph, let's add 10 words here. They're difficult, but these are called distractors. And this is a standard. It's a standard in test assessment that they need to add 3 distractors, like the multiple choice questions, for example. This is a very good example of distractors. We add 3 distractors. 1 that is correct, 1 that is really similar to the correct one, and 2 other distractors. Rate point number 2. It's a distractor, it's a noun.
Incorrect. Option in a multiple choice question for pictures, 3 of which are distractors.
See? So the word distractors are is kind of like part of the norm of test administration. Like they have fun with them. There are people who enjoy adding so many distractors to the tests.
Actually, on listening, it's filled with distractors.
Yes. They and how do they do it in
questions.
listening? They do it by saying, "Oh no, I mean, that's the distract," and that they train hours and hours to get distractors feel like they are real information.
I thought I wasn't good on listening because
no. It's
it
this.
was filled of distractors. When I finished.
Did we talk about this before?
Yes, but
I didn't show you that.
Yes,
I didn't tell you that this is the norm.
Yes. When I completed the first one and the last one, I was good because it was
easy.
Yeah, no, not easy. The first one, it was easy, but the fourth section, because it was fill in the blank, I found it easy. But the second and the third one, it's only.
What do you mean the second and third? The questions? The third part. Okay.
Yeah, section.
Section 3 and 4 are the most challenging ones.
No, I found section 2. You know why? Because it was multiple choice question, and they were talking about some subject, but it filled with no. Let's change.
Yeah.
Because at first when I heard the conversation,
you just assume because of time constraint, you just go and answer.
Yes, and they were talking about us. They said that we have to do this, but we have to delay it. So I left it.
They're not going to do it.
Yes. Then at the end he said, no, let's leave all of that and do the first one.
Well, that's what we call distractors.
Yes. So on the second section, I found it very difficult. So I thought that I wasn't good on listening, but I think
no, it has nothing to do with you. They just sit like test administration committee. Well, I'm telling you this because this is my professor. My professor back in the United States. Her name was Kathleen Bailey. She was part of the ETS, which is English Testing Services. It's the company that is responsible of designing TOEFL tests. And then she used to say that we sit for hours and hours and hours thinking of what kind of distractors we add to this list and how we can trick learners to see which ones are the smarter ones and which one. They have purpose, like in applied linguistics research. They serve very good purpose. They are like the fishnet of those critical listeners and passive listeners. Those who automate responses based on what they hear, or those who question what they hear and think, well, this is not what you meant, this is what it should mean. Or
you completely understand all the...
Yes, so there's the critical listening, we call it. And critical listening is simply, in a nutshell, is questioning every piece of information that you hear. So they are building on two aspects here. Distracting the regular test takers from the professional listeners and test takers who have spent hours and hours listening to this kind of conversations and getting used to how people speak and what they say and how they say it, or how to do self-correction. It's always a marathon. Like we've designed this kind of distractors. Now let's migrate to another one that are new to the audience. So when they give them the test, they are not going to expect them. And then the use of synonyms.
Yes, of course.
So when you hear the speaker talks, is a little bit different from the kind of context that is in front of you, because they're trying to measure if you have understanding, like 9 understanding, as assuming that 9 is native speakers understanding, but
some of the questions were related to grammar. Because when I heard it on the fourth section, they were talking about some types of goat,
Goat.
Yes.
GOAT.
Yes. And at the beginning, the first classification was described as a goat, but after that they called it a sheep.
Mhm.
So the first one. After that, they were talking about it's become distinct because it's live on some areas because of hunting,
Mhm.
while the other
Or
cause.
gaming, by the way.
Yes.
Gaming.
Gaming?
Game. Gaming.
Gaming? What's the meaning of gaming? Game. Playing, no?
No.
Gambling.
No. That's for gaming, but it has very different meaning here. Let's see where.
Meeting, type of activities.
No. See, I'm trying to prove something that's not in the dictionary, but I'm sure they have it in here.
No secret?
No. This one. Wild mammals or birds hunted for sport or food. So, this is the part where they use the word.
Synonyms.
Yeah, and it just caught my attention that there is a department in the United States. It's called the Department of Gaming. And when I looked at it, it just seems to me that probably this is something that related to sports or to Las Vegas when they do the gaming and gambling. But then it turned out, well, it was weird to see that kind of signpost in a wildlife park. And they put gaming is prohibited here. So I thought that gaming means
playing sports.
Playing sport, but it turned out that they prohibited gaming, which is wild mammals or birds hunted for sport or food, because they want to preserve the parks. There, they disallow gaming. But for me, as a person who used to play games when I was a young kid, I thought that gaming is like, why? What's the kind of relevance here? Like, so sometimes they trick you. And this is a very valid example here when we think of like something is in your mind, in your subconscious mind, that this is what it is, but then it turns out that it's something different. They didn't say hunting.
No, they said the second was wolf. But on the test, on the paper test, it said the space. So you have to write wolves. I at first I write because it said the second one the second cause wolf. So I write wolf, but when I started to read my to write my answers on the sheet, I read the. Why the? She said wolf.
So they're looking for something different.
Yes, so I write wolves.
How do you write wolves?
Wolves. No, I check it when I return to.
Because I see F.
No, wolves. I write it because.
Why did you say wolf here?
No, it's. Yeah. So I on two questions I found there is a grammatic difference from what she said.
Of course, yeah, yes. And then when you go and see the result, like the answer sheets, sometimes they give you options. Like you can use, if they say two words, probably you can use that. If they say one word, you have to stick to the exact word that they mentioned in the test. And I mean, it's just a test. Honestly,
Yes.
Let's not dwell.
Of course.
Let's not dwell on that.
I know it.
Dwell on.
Yes.
Dwell on is different from dwell.
It. Yes. Dwell on is different.
It's a bit different.
Or delve. It's the same meaning. Delve into.
No. This is from, I think, Wikipedia. To dwell on it is to. Well, this is an example. I'm not one to dwell on the past. Linger over. That means like I'm always stuck in the past, and thinking about past and the pain and suffering that I had in the past. So, for example, if you have an argument or a kind of debate or hard feeling against someone, and you need to move on, so you say to each other like, let's not dwell on that. So to dwell on, it means to
speak a lot.
No, to stick to what causes you pain for a long time, or to linger on. He's using the word linger over. You can always use the this website. See where it is. It's what is it? Youglish.
Youglish?
Youglish. It's like YouTube, but it's Youglish. So dwell on. See, it's used a lot here, for example. It just it takes
much less this temple that
it takes all of the videos on YouTube that of people who are using this expression, and they just put it to you. So here he has 1080 examples of, and then the transcription of it, which is really good. Like it helps you visualize it and see how it is used.
I have built, will God indeed dwell on earth?
See.
So again, I don't need to dwell on the plots here, but
I'm not going to dwell on why it's important to vote.
So it means I'm not going to linger over, to stay over and stick to that. And what's interesting that they show you examples if you prefer US English or UK English or Australian English. See if there are Australians, but Australian is always tricky. It's different. Yes. The kind of music for Australian English is.
So I won't dwell on this. This is just to show that transmission from that neighbour's dog. Now, it doesn't dwell on the fact that this boy.
This one is Australian.
Australian. I think English is her channel.
Heard me belabor these, so I don't want to dwell on them too much. But there are at least.
So that's kind of like Irish Australian.
Now this, I'm not going to dwell on all these technical diagrams. They're not that technical, but what
he is just blurging something.
Yes.
Face. But I'd like to dwell on the.
I think he has better accent here.
Yeah.
Is blurge a word? Blurge. Blurge.
Lunges.
Splurge. Okay. Purge. Plunge. Yeah, that's not a word in English. I don't know why I used it. Okay. Well, yeah, talking about the writing in IELTS and the challenges that we may face when we're writing. Other than that, what kind of since we've been let's not dwell on listening section. Let's move to talking about other sections. You mentioned that the reading section was a bit challenging to you.
The last section, the first one, section, and the second one was.
They are easier. They're relatively easier.
Yes, very easy.
You can just go through the answers. But I think the validity of the last sections outweigh the validity of first sections because the amount of assessment is given based on the performance of the group of people answering that in that time particularly, and to see. I think you were not lucky enough to have other people with you taking that test, because some of the score assessment is actually built on a curve, a bell curve. So if other people, and this is I heard from one of my professors saying that if you're taking the test with other people and most of them achieve higher score, you're automatically getting higher score, because they are going to raise your score, and not to create inconsistency. And there is some sort of formula for that part, based on the bell curve distribution of answers. So if bell curve, right?
Yes.
So on the bell curve, if the majority of people have scores in the middle, they usually assume that most of the test takers are performing well. But if there's one person taking the test, it's just prohibiting the process of measuring him to other people taking the test. But you couldn't do anything about it. You just showed up and nobody else showed up. So you just were the lone wolf. Lone wolf. The lone wolf is a military expression. Lone wolf does not mean a wolf, but it's taking the analogy from a lone wolf, a person who prefers to act or be alone. And usually, like when they talk about insurgents, tourists, and tourism pockets, they say they have some lone wolves in Austria or in Germany. So they are independent tourists, but they're working by themselves. Or snipers. They are lone wolves.
Yes.
And they are taking this analogy. I am intentionally using these words for you because they are common, and you need to use them.
Analogy.
So I can say example, but I prefer to say analogy because the word example is tending to become more informal. Like everybody can say for example, but you should not say for analogy. No. But you can say for instance or for analogy purposes. But it's very infrequent, but it's very academic.
Also? No,
paradigm is completely different. Analogy, not anal. It's a analogy. It's a comparison between two things. And it's analogy. See? Analogy for sake of analogy, and it's always good to see at least like 7 examples. And this is how I do things. Like when I sit and come across a new expression, I just go to English and write it down. I enjoy the music of it and see how people pronounce it in different parts of the world. It's not that quite frequent, but usually professors and people in the academic field use it.
Standard boundary. My problem with the fire in a crowded theatre analogy is that what it's doing...
See?
Experience of that. It's not the best.
So these are experts. So they...
In Canada, the best analogy to use is a hockey.
See, it's just...
It sets the prices. The analogy with that to the... And the analogy even extends to the sleepless.
So it's mostly like used by people in the academic field, people who have kind of like awareness of this kind of expression. And we usually say to draw analogy. Analogy. Or let's draw analogy between this part and that part and this particular thing and that particular thing. That's how this expression is used. Do you have a laptop?
Yes.
Okay, would you please bring it? Because we'll do a short workshop here on writing. Perfect. when we'll spend the rest of this meeting today to do a bit of writing practice here. So this is the question that I want you to just have a look at it. You don't have to write down the question. Just open a Microsoft Word. I want you to write between 150 to 200 words. We'll just discuss them and then see what went well with that writing and what it did not go well with that writing. So I'm proudly saying that your listening is really good, and I've done fair amount of practice for listening. You've kind of like understood it. Honestly, sometimes I think they fail people for commercial purposes.
Yes, they
just making money out of it.
One of the teachers on the institute, they told me that because of
one of the teachers.
Yes.
In Dubai.
Yes.
See,
because she had a lot of students, and she said they try to fail you because for the financial purposes. They said that.
I don't want to say that because I don't tend to blame institutions, but honestly, this happens everywhere. Like especially after Brexit, British exit from the European Union, they've gone in through some financial crises with E, and it seems to me that it makes lots of profit around the world. Lots of people actually take IELTS test, so it's a kind of mine of fortune, and it brings them millions of dollars. And I mean,
she told me that if you take the test from the first one and you get higher score, what their benefits?
Yeah. Yes. But honestly, I was like hesitant to say that because if I say that, I would admit that it's their fault, not my fault, so I don't need to do any effort. And then this is going to be invalid because the purpose of, you need to validate your Microsoft. Okay.
Yes.
So some people think that the government is wasting money on the arts. This is an IELTS test, IELTS writing question that just popped up some years ago or some months ago. It's not a question. It's the mechanism of writing, how you start writing. And I just need to see that because I haven't seen it since August. Some people think that the government is wasting money on the arts and that this money could be better spent elsewhere. Now, to what extent do you agree or disagree with this view? So it's a agreement, disagreement sort of essay. It's not argumentative.
Yes.
But you need to create a kind of argument here to support this kind of statement. You're going to be given, let's say, 20 minutes.
This is the second one. It must be. Okay, give me 30 minutes.
30? How fast can you type?
On the computer, faster than...
Let's do a challenge. I'll do the writing, you do the writing.
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't want to sit and watch you. I need to do some sort of competition here.
Yes.
Not to say that I write better than you. No, by no means. But it's just... let's get started. Do you want to take a photo of the question here?
Just to write it, and I have to paraphrase.
What's wrong with your memory?
No, I have to paraphrase.
But don't copy and paste what inside here.
No, paraphrase.
That's unethical. Joking. You're faster than me. Come on, that's not fair.
Consider.
Why do you phrase it? You should not.
You
should not rephrase what inside here.
Why? You have to paraphrase the
No.
Why?
You're just wasting your time. You need to start developing good topic, and if they see that you're just paraphrasing this kind of question, you're just consuming the words that they've given to you, you need to do replacement. You need to do introduction. So here, for example, some people think that the government is wasting money on arts and that the money could be better spent elsewhere. Are you with or against?
Yes, but I don't know.
Are you with or against?
I guess.
Against.
Yes.
So you need to spend like 1 hour, not 1 hour, 1 minute reflecting about how you will create your kind of defense here.
Yeah.
So if you're against, then there should be some examples that you are going to put down there regarding that against part, some evidence.
I found that when you know the IELTS advantage.
Okay.
So I found his video about writing because he said when you have agree or disagree, you have to paraphrase and give your opinion or agreement, and then you have to write. You have to give 2 reasons or 3 reasons as you like. So here you start to paraphrase the question, and then you said I totally disagree with this statement because. And
how do you paraphrase the question?
You said some people has no. I think I considered that.
Do whatever you like.
Okay.
Do whatever you like, because I don't want to like uninstall any kind of strategies that you've had and bring new strategies that are not valid and consistent with the way of your thinking. But just FYI, that when you rephrase what they asked you, you're just pretty much not doing anything. You're just telling them, like, for example, did you eat breakfast? And you say, well, you mean, did you digest the early morning meal? It has no value because this is just recycling of things that they've asked you about. What they want to see an artistic introduction where you can develop some sort of introduction, a very good solid body, and then conclusion. You're just wasting your time. You have 20 minutes. I'll set the timer. Honestly, go and say timer and 0 hour, and let's say we have only 18 minutes left. Okay. Hello, Habibi. You have 9 minutes. Okay. Put it in Times New Roman. Save it on desktop. Don't forget to save it there. Seven minutes. Five minutes. How many words have you reached so far?
109.
Are you serious?
Mm.
4 minutes. Feeling bored. You have 3 minutes. I swear I'll mark you out of 9 based on the 4 criteria. And I want you to mark my article just for fair competition here. So let's see. Okay. Great. Amino?
So.
3 minutes.
Mm.
50 seconds. Seven seconds.
example الثاني ما قدرت أسوي.
4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay. Should I read or you read?
Okay, we'll read.
Okay.
In today's era, there are a variety
In
of...
2 days?
Era. Era.
What do you mean in today's era?
يعني...
بعد ال... Okay. How do you set the introduction?
I can say nowadays in today's era.
Just okay.
There are a variety of issues that government facing financially.
Mm-hmm.
So some people consider.
What kind of issues did you mention in the article?
On the last, I said I talked about some of the issues such as poverty and the climate change.
I want you to go down there.
Yes, there.
Yeah, I want you to draw, insert, go to insert.
Insert, yes.
Table. 4, 2, 3, 4. Now
Right.
down 2. That's it. No, 2.
Okay, I will remove it.
Just get it. Just do it. Keep it that way. Okay. Continue.
Yes. So some people consider spending money on art is not right. This is I totally agree with this statement because poverty affects many people and government must support them. Also, there are aspects. I write aspect. Such as climate change are important. Poverty become common in many countries. Fair distribution of money between people may have a huge impact on the outcome on community. This will create prosperity and give people the incentive to be creative. For example, in Finland, all people must be supported by government to have fair lives and create equality. Climate change is a dilemma across the world, and therefore governments must focus on this aspect to reduce the effect.
How is climate change relevant to the theme of the article here?
Because it said most of the governments focus on art, so they have to focus on another.
But they didn't mention anything that has to do with climate change.
No.
So why did you bring it into the article?
I thought that they have to focus on another.
On
another.
Now, did you do? Do you think that this is effective when it comes to assessing your on-task achievement?
Because I said I am totally agree with this statement, so I gave
okay,
reason.
I totally agree. No, Tom. Yeah.
So I
keep reading.
To reduce the effect for a better future, because our lives are important than anything in the world.
Why do you say the word anything? We agreed that very thing. We talked before.
Yes.
In our previous meetings, and I said, never use the word very, and never use the word anything or something. It's just a filler made in China. It has no value, and it's not an indicative of high academic status. You're not supposed to. Okay, well, keep it that way. Yeah, I thought that you're gonna delete it.
No.
In conclusion,
more money have been wasted for art by governments, but this action must be diverted toward
this. Okay, so in conclusion, more money have been wasted for art by government. Okay, so you mean the government has wasted money on art?
Yes. But this action must be diverted toward a lot of important aspects to support people and environment.
Did you mention the kind of aspects?
In the first I said.
Okay,
yes.
What did you say?
They have to support people because of poverty.
What kind of support?
Financially.
Okay, that makes sense. How many words do you get? 181?
61.
And how much are you supposed to write? 300, right?
Yes.
Minimum.
Yes.
Okay.
But I had time.
Oh, you still had exam. Okay. Well, we're not practicing for sake of exam. We're practicing for something beyond that.
Yes, but I think 30 is fair. I have to write a lot.
Read it again.
In today's
Now,
era,
what we talked about here, we talked about task achievement. So
Yes.
I want you to read it again for cohesion and coherence.
yes, in today's era, there are a variety of issues that government facing financially.
When you say variety of issues, you need to at least mention one or two. One or two.
Okay.
Or more. How many did you mention? One or two or more.
And the first one, I didn't mention anything on the last.
Why do you fucking not mention anything if you... No, see,
I thought that
there is a difference. There is a difference between thinking English and writing English and thinking Arabic and writing English. So what I see manifested here is that there is this kind of filter still going on. What we need to do is to think with ourselves, how do they say it in English? Not how do I translate it into English? There's a difference.
Okay, yes.
If you ask yourself, oh my God, how do they say it in English? Not how should I translate it into English? Because your job is going to be transferring equally the structure of sentences that you say in Arabic to English, and that's going to create inconsistency. And we are not necessarily tied to say literally what we think of Arabic-wise and filter that into English. That does not make any sense. We are writing a complete, solid English essay. So I am not happy with the introduction that you've set there. You tried to rephrase, but it seems that you didn't rephrase and you didn't develop a good introduction topic. Okay, but that's okay. I mean, I hope that you accept my criticism here. It's all positive for positive purposes.
Yes.
So in today, I don't want you to say in today's era.
Okay.
Because the word, well, you can say nowadays.
Yes, okay.
Or you can say in this era. But when you set the mood for era, you need to specifically refer to the 21st century. So you need to say in the 21st century or in the era of 21st century.
Okay.
But usually the word era is not loosely used. It's very specific kind of context.
Okay.
So if you don't know how to use the word clearly, you need to understand how it is used in writing. Now, keep reading. There are a variety of issues. The word issue, well, when we assess the writing, there's ambiguity. So we ask ourselves, is this essay ambiguous or clear? When the word issue is mentioned, did he state clearly what the issues are? And did he develop the growth of narrative of these issues or not? How much time how much words did he say? How many words did he use for that? So that the government, when we talk about government, we have to specifically refer to certain, for example, countries' governments and how they deal with that. It's hypothetical scenario. Facing financially. So
some people
never use the word so in writing. It's informal. Some people is very is not very research oriented kind of it's not valid in the field of research, because when you say, some people say we're just relying on their opinions. Just because they say that does not mean that it's real. That's why channels like Fox News in the United States, they say some people say, some people say. But when they say that, they are just attributing the kind of statement that they're telling people to people who are considered pundits or people who think they know politics, for example. So this is a kind of media style of diversion, but it's not clear, it's not real, and you need to understand that this has some sort of invalidity. See here.
The Fox News decision desk can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania and Nevada.
Mm-hmm. It's well known that this kind of style is very infamous for Fox News. Give me 1 second, Fox. See.
People say that'd be a pretty good choice. Bring in the Hispanic crowd. Some people say, he's posturing. Some people say, and excuse me, I'll get to you, Joe, in just a second, but some people say that you may be setting up Sharpton for a run against Hillary in 2006 in the Senate.
Journalistically, it's a very peculiar technique because the idea behind journalism is that you're sourcing who you're referring to. This is just sort of a clever way of inserting political opinion when you know it probably shouldn't be there.
Some people say that this might undermine what the U.S. troops are doing there.
Some people say John Kerry has some similarities.
So you're not sourcing authentic kind of evidence down there. So this is not this is bias style.
Yes.
So you need to use more academic set of words, and I can definitely. You can definitely do that once you finish the writing, you go back and read it very quickly and replace the informal with formal.
On the exam.
Yeah, so you just do that gradually. Not to say that you're not going to have enough time to do all of it, but to do most of it.
Yes, most of it. Yes. That's right.
For lexical diversity, I see a lots of informal here. I think for task achievements, I'm giving you 5.5 here for that, because it seems to me that you didn't have enough time to develop a good amount of progress over the narrative here. For cohesion and coherence, when you talk about, for example, the second paragraph here, talking about poverty, the first paragraph talks about a variety of issues. Third paragraph, climate change. There is no consistency. Like here at the end, you say, in addition to that, poverty is a big action. Well, poverty is a big element in the spending. And you stop, and then you move. Poverty becomes common. By the end of poverty, in addition to poverty, there's the issue of climate change, and you stop, and then you move to the next new paragraph, and you start with climate change. So there's not that quite cohesion and coherence out there. If we go to lexical diversity, I see lots of informal words down there, and for grammar, we have tons of grammar, honestly, down there when it comes to grammatical mistakes and spelling. So assuming that it's out of 9, so 5.5 plus 6 plus 5.5 plus 4 equals 21. Divided by 4, you got 4. How much did you get in writing?
6.5.
Okay, so that's much better. So probably since we had a time constraint here, we didn't give you a chance to be fully expressive of yourself or replace that, which is really okay, because we're just doing simulation here. Now I'll show you what I wrote here. It's not perfect, and I might not get even 8.5, but what's in my mind when I was writing is to develop a good kind of essay that is
300.
No, it's not 300.
Because you right here. No, you can select the words and
300. Okay, so I kind of like stuck to 300 here for that purpose. And let's read it.
The statement of the essay states that the government must not allocate money for art, and this allocation can be adopted for other far more significant purposes as counterintuitive and groundless. First of all, there should be some reasonably foundation to the allocation the government dedicates for art and museums. Art is the beautiful facade of the country, and it represents the true image of civilization, heritage, and unfathomable legacy of the past. Should a government make the decision to bring that huge expenditure to other suitable infrastructure can be taken with a grain of salt, since infrastructure is a detrimental element of the country's growth and economic progress. Art plays a vital role in spearheading the wheel of evolution of people and their sense of beauty and imagination. Italy, for example, has evolved over the past century as the crucible of art, and this heritage has granted Italy the privilege to be the destination of tourism in the world. Thus, to state that government wastes money on art is baseless and ruthless to some extent. However, once the country undergoes certain economic crises such as pandemic or military conflicts, it may suffice to say that the attention to art is minimized temporarily until the country recuperates and be back to its healthy status. Furthermore, once designed and reflected upon carefully, art can be a great asset to the economic wealth of nations. It renders people aware of their heritage and brings interested art seekers from all the world to pay visits to museums, theaters, and art galleries such as Lovre in France and the Globe Theatre in the United Kingdom. Thus, art is the backbone of the country. It carries the heritage, showcases the trace of civilization, and fathom deep the horizons of progression to country and its citizens.
أكو نقطة أريد أركز عليها أنه بالكتابة ومتن المقالات لازم تذكر الرأي المناقضة رأيك
صح.
في سبيل الحياد، فأنا ذكرت هنا هذه المقالة.
However, once the country undergoes certain economic crises such as pandemic or military conflicts, it may suffice to say that the attention to art is minimized temporarily until the country recuperates and be back to its healthy status.
By the way, I had no idea what I was writing. I was just throwing words there, but I had a belief that the government should invest in art, not waste it on some other. And I built on the evidence that art is considered as the part of the infrastructure and built on that. But I had this kind of paragraph here to say, well, okay, once the government is undergoing conflict or pandemic, there might not be that much attention given to art temporarily. So I'm using the word temporarily to refer to going back to the previous condition once that is over, not to minimize the amount. This is unbiased kind of statement, just to.
So we can write without saying that we are to agree or disagree.
Of course, because it's more. No, you can say you agree or disagree, but you bring other people's opinion that goes against your opinion. Why? For sake of transparency and for sake of non-bias.
No, I said as part of task completion, I have to write that I am agree or disagree.
Of course, but it's not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's about how you say it in a way that looks convincing to me and to the readers.
Okay.
I'll give you this as an example here. Just have a look at it and probably reflect, because I want you to write something not similar to this, but something that I can like.
Okay.
And by the way, I honestly, like when I was writing this, you need to be fully emotional, expressive about your thoughts, and pump as much emotions and feelings in it by being passionate to some extent about whether you agree or disagree. Once you feel that, your words are going to flow. And remember something here, that there's a trick also. We don't say some foundation. I said some reasonable. I made a mistake here. I should say reasonable foundation. But once I have 40 minutes, I would definitely go back and delete the why. And so to the allocation the government dedicates for art and museum. Art is the beauty facade, a beautiful, so I'm using the word adjectives here before nouns. So it represents true image. I'm using lots of adjectives to ensure that I have lexical diversity. I'm checking the grammar to see if the grammar is accurate and using the words expressively. I had an issue with Lovre because I'm not sure if this is how it is spelled or not, but that doesn't matter. Great asset. So I'm using wealth of nation. Interested art seekers. So I'm using lots of adjectives here. I'm also adding something here, which is idiom, because I want to make the reader understand that I know idioms. Do you know where it is?
Yeah,
Where is
I
it?
think. With a grain of
A grain of salt.
Yes.
Okay, I'm using that intentionally to refer to my mastery of some of the idioms in English that we can use. And I'm just making fun of saying that art has no value in government spending. This is not true. Art is the backbone. And if you're taking like here, spearheading the wheel of evolution. So spearheading. So there's this analogy, this metaphor, اللي هو التعبير المجازي. So I'm using metaphor. I'm using idioms. So keep it simple. Once you write, put a checklist. I need to use at least one idiom. I need to use one metaphor. I need to use enough adjectives. Don't leave any word, any noun without adjectives. I need to put good introduction, good body, and good conclusion. And that's it. I'm gonna send you this, but I expect you to write a better sample than this. There is one other thing. Faster when it comes to typing, because this is my field, than you.
Yes.
Well, in writing, maybe you're faster than me because you're a dentist and you write like lots of gibberish to people very fast. So what I want you to do is just simply have a look at here and what I thought. We did it at the same time, so I'm just showing you a very organic example. Honestly, I had no thought, zero thought about what I wrote here before I come here, and it just came to my mind that let's do it together. So it was that kind of instantaneous kind of initiative, just to give you a better feeling that we can both work together on that. I'm trying to. Did you have a flash drive?
Yes.
Because I want you to have a look at it here. Okie dokie. How do you put this? Okay. I saved it here. Example to Mustafa. I can put it here. You have a virus. This recycler is a virus. This is a virus. So maybe it may not be open other, but definitely you need to check it out. 21st century and we still deal